Hi, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our webinar this morning, which is called Optimise Financial Reporting and Planning with Solver. My name is Matt Peace. I'm the account director here at Enhance, and I'm very pleased to be joined this morning by Mandy Rai from Solver. Just a quick bit of background really and some housekeeping. So this morning the session is being hosted, of course, through Microsoft Teams Live. Everybody should be able to see a Q&A panel on their screen. So if you have any questions as we go through, please feel free to put any questions in the Q&A. We should have about 5 to 10 minutes at the end of the session for us to cover off any questions that you have, and I'll be calling them out to Mandy at the end of the presentation, so feel free to do that. This webinar is also going to be recorded, so if anyone would like a copy of the recording and any colleagues may want to see this afterwards, then we're more than happy to circulate a copy of the recording afterwards. So just a quick intro really. So this is a new partnership that we've made here at Enhance with Solver. Solver provide a fantastic solution in what we think is a bit of a gap around both kind of Dynamics GP, but also Business Central around financial reporting, forecasting and planning. So we think this is a really good product that we'd like to show you this morning. So that's my intro just over. I'll hand over now to Mandy, who's going to go through the presentation this morning. Over to you, Mandy.
Thank you so much, Matt, and good morning to everyone on the call today. As Matt mentioned, my name is Mandy Rai, and I am the sales manager for Solver, concentrating mainly on the UK market. Now, during the course of this webinar, I will introduce you to the Solver solution, which is a Microsoft preferred performance management solution that can enable your organizations to make quicker and faster and better decisions with a highly automated and functionality driven budgeting and reporting process. And we can transform the entire reporting and planning process for you with a user-friendly solution that has been built for the business user in mind. So before we get started, this webinar is for you if you are a Business Central customer looking for a powerful and flexible reporting and planning solution that can seamlessly integrate to the ERP, whilst also automating the entire reporting and planning process for you. This webinar is also for you if you are a Dynamics GP customer that is looking to potentially migrate to BC, but require a replacement for management reporter and forecaster. So as Matt mentioned earlier in the introduction, the relationship between Enhance and Solver is because Enhance sees a potential gap in the market. From a Solver perspective, we work with many partners globally, and the gap that we are seeing is something that I will show you today. But for GP users that are looking to migrate to BC, they're used to utilizing solutions or tools like Management Reporter and Forecaster. And of course, migrating over to BC would mean that they would lose that. And Solver is a fantastic alternative for you for those solutions. So you can make that leap and make that switch onto BC. So let's kickstart off with just going through a little bit more about the challenges that Solver resolves, a little bit more about the Solver and Microsoft relationship, and then we'll go straight into a product demonstration. So some of today's challenges that CFOs and organizations are facing is that data is literally everywhere. We have so much data, and that's all due down to technology. Now, when it comes to month-end reporting, when it comes to budgeting and forecasting, because we have data in disparate systems, there's no single version of the truth, which means that when it comes to decision making, to be able to manage the performance of the business, to be able to plan based on the business's performance and make those critical decisions, it can be slow because it takes some time to actually get that one version of the truth together. And normally to be able to get to that point, it's again, extracting data from those disparate systems, consolidating that data in one tool that then allows you to make a decision based on the performance of the business. So it's of course slow decision making and inadequate visibility throughout that process. It's also a burdensome manual process as well, which can lead to errors. It's prone to error, it's human nature. We all can make errors. And again, just through that process of extracting data from various different data sources to be able to consolidate that into one tool, usually that's Excel. It is a manual process and, of course, a time-consuming process and an error-prone process because you can make errors. Now, when it comes to the monthly reporting cycle, usually there's a heavy reliance on Excel. As I've mentioned in the two points above, that one consolidated tool that you're using to extract data and pull that data together and manipulate that data is usually Excel. But also from a budgeting and forecasting perspective, once you have that one version of the truth, or what you believe to be one version of the truth in Excel, typically from a budgeting and forecasting perspective and forward, it's then creating input forms, budget forms, forecast forms in Excel to then share out with the budget holders or the budget contributors. So throughout that whole process, when you're sharing those templates out or spreadsheets out via Excel to those budget holders, there's lack of real-time updates or visibility in terms of, okay, well, how far along in the budgeting cycle are we? Has anyone started? Who has completed their budgeting contribution, who hasn't? So the visibility there as an organization is next to none, and it lacks that real-time update to be able to see, okay, are we near completion? Are we 50% done in the budgeting cycle? Are we close to even defining what the next year's budget will be? And we have some key stats there that we've picked up from some third-party sources in terms of what CFOs are looking for and what their top priority is. But I like the last one there, where 68% of companies spent more time on data-related prep tasks than the actual analysis. And this is where Solver will help you get to that analysis phase a lot quicker than maybe what you are currently doing today. So let's move on to the next segment of this slide. So let's talk a little bit more about the Solver capabilities. But before we do, Solver and Microsoft have joined together to digitally transform financial planning and analysis processes within organizations. And that's mainly for D365 and Dynamics users. So the functionality that Solver is offering you as an organization is financial reporting and consolidation. So we have an out-of-the-box integration to Business Central, and that's Business Central Cloud only, as well as pre-built integrations to Dynamics GP, NAV, AX, SL, as well as data warehousing capability that will allow you to connect all of those disparate systems into a solution like Solver. So we do have the flexibility to connect to other data sources that are not just the ERP. We have a financial consolidation capability. So if you are a large organization that has a group of entities beneath it, then you can report within Solver on different hierarchies, different structures of your business, and consolidate that data based on those multiple different hierarchies. Financial consolidation will cover multi-currency handling as well as intercompany eliminations. Again, those intercompany eliminations can be on different structures of your business, different reporting structures of your business. All of the reporting is done in a familiar environment. We utilize an Excel-based report designer, which you will see later on in the demonstration today. Moving on to the next functionality or capability that we offer, we then have planning and budgeting and forecasting capability. So in terms of some of the challenges that we mentioned, we actually have a full workflow, an optimized system that allows you to track and control the budgeting and forecasting cycle. It starts off with sending out email notifications to budget holders when an assignment has been shared with them and requires their input, to the point of once they have inputted, the submissions can be reviewed and approved by senior management or even the budget manager. So we have a 2-level approval process as part of that workflow so that you can review and approve any submissions that have been made. This is a full systemized process with notifications being sent out at every single step. In terms of the planning and budgeting and forecasting capabilities as well, we support driver-based planning, multi-scenario planning, as well as the ability to not just only plan on your financials, i.e. your GL, but also to bring in data from payroll systems to be able to support payroll planning, cash flow forecasting, sales planning, cost allocations, and some more functionality that is a little bit more advanced there. And then finally, we have data visualization and analysis capability. So this is the point of where we want to get to for you as an organization in a quicker time frame, less time consuming and less error prone. Now, in terms of our data visualization, as part of our Excel-based report designer, we have fantastic charting capability. However, we do also, in order to extend that further into actual visualizations and dashboards, we have a real-time connection to Power BI, where you can power your analysis. You can look at your KPI reporting, your management reporting in a visualization, which is powered by Power BI. In addition to that, we will talk about this later on, we do have some out-of-the-box dashboards available to you from day one as well. So in terms of Solver and Microsoft relationship, Solver has been a Microsoft Gold partner for more than 20 years, but over the last 3 years, we have, or 3 years ago, should I say, we had signed a strategic cooperation agreement with Microsoft, where we were selected as their preferred partner to deliver advanced planning and reporting from Microsoft Azure to D365 customers worldwide. Now, one of the unique benefits of this agreement is that the Microsoft product development team that is in Redmond, US, co-developed with Solver to enable a more seamless user experience. So one of the products that we launched as part of that relationship is an out-of-the-box solution, which we are referring to as Solver Quick Start. Now, Solver Quick Start is available for Business Central Cloud customers only, where we can deploy our out-of-the-box connection to Business Central, offering you as an organization quick time to value. Because in addition to the out-of-the-box integration, we then have a whole library of 100+ ready-to-use reports, budget input forms, and Power BI dashboards that are available to you instantly. Now, Solver Quick Start, the out-of-the-box solution for GL-based data only, can be deployed in just 1 day. Again, this is just available for D365 Business Central Cloud customers only. Before we move on to a demonstration, just a very quick overview in terms of Solver. We are a global organization. As mentioned, we've been a Microsoft Gold partner for more than 20 years. We were established over 25 years ago. We have the experience. We've been leaders in report designing solutions since our inception. Currently to date, we have more than 15 locations across the globe. You can see some of the hubs there. So we have a US hub, a EMEA hub, and an APAC hub. But more importantly, we service over 4,000 customers globally, 4,000 customers that are utilizing Solver alongside their ERP. Now, some key stats for you. Out of those 4,000 customers, 60% of those, 60% of our install base are Dynamics GP users. So Dynamics GP users that are using Solver to provide them with reporting and planning capabilities. So we have fantastic experience established experience with working with Dynamics GP and enhancing the capabilities further out into Solver with advanced planning and reporting. In more recent times, over the last couple of years, and especially this year, 80% of our net new customers, net new deals that we close every single month as a global organization is Business Central customers. It's Business Central customers using Solver as their reporting and planning solution. Now, that might coincide with the fact that we have such a high install base with GP, and a lot of those customers are migrating over to BC. But again, we do have a fantastic offering for those GP customers and for those BC customers. So again, going back to my first slide, if you are a BC customer and a GP customer, you're on the right webinar if you're interested in finding out how we can transform your reporting and planning capabilities. And without further ado, let's go straight into showing you a product demonstration. Okay, so first and foremost, I am going to show this visualization here that we have created as part of our demonstration environment. Now, this is a cash flow simulation, which is a dashboard that is hosted on Power BI, as you can see there. Now, this type of simulation, mostly organizations and senior executives, of course, want to understand their cash position. So they will use a cash flow simulation like this as part of their liquidity planning tool. And often the CFO, FDs and controllers are wanting to plan and predict the company's cash flow. Now, key functionality in this type of dashboard includes complete interactivity with the sliders here for each of the components, which will allow the user that's consuming this dashboard to increase or decrease the metrics to instantly see how that affects the total cash. Sorry, the total cash flow, I should say. Now, the simulation over here on the right-hand side displays the increase or decrease in cash balance, which is then added to the beginning balance to provide you with the cash ending balance. Now, the underlying data here is coming directly from the Solver data warehouse in real time, and in the Solver data warehouse, that's where we're storing all of the actuals and budgeting information. So this is a real-time connection where the underlying data is coming from Solver. Now, once the simulation is completed, and as long as the user has a Solver license, the user can click on the link to open up the balance sheet or even the cash flow budget input forms, where they can then make further adjustments or come up with a new budget or forecast scenario. So I do have a license to Solver, so I'm just going to open this up here, and that takes me straight into Solver. Because I'm already logged in, it will take me directly into the template here, where now I could make a new scenario or adjust the existing forecast based on my cash flow. So this is an example of a cash flow budget where I have my cash inflows and my cash outflows. We have various other examples like weekly cash flows where AP and AR is pulling in and driving the cash flow. In this very simple one, we're just looking at cash inflows and cash outflows. I have the ability on the drivers at the top here to actually model this further. So I have some data where I'm pulling through my actuals, and then I have projections for the future months. But over here on the top in the yellow cells, I'm actually going to drive the rest of my cash flow. So I'm going to state that in the month of March, I want to make a percentage change to my proceeds from loan, and that will increase by 10%. So if we look at proceeds from loan in March, as soon as I hit enter, that will now change for March and onwards by 10%. Similarly, I can make a change to my cash outflows. And again, in the month of March, I'm going to change my payroll and related expenses. Currently, the projection is 413,000. I'm actually going to make a change to say that that will now be 450,000. And there you go. That change has been placed for March and onwards. And of course, I can go into every single month over here and drive the rest of this cash flow projection based on any of the drivers that and assumptions that I want to input into the yellow cells. So this was just a very quick overview of how I took a Power BI dashboard. I created a simulation here and actually went directly into Solver, into the cash flow budget, and started to create a new prediction or assumption based on some of the drivers that I've inputted. Now, at this point, what I'm going to do is stay within my Solver environment and just close down Power BI for a second. And now we'll start to look at the rest of the Solver planning capability. So while I'm switching over to my another environment, I'm actually going to put on a hat of a budget manager. So Mandy is a budget manager and she wants to go into Solver to start preparing the annual budget. And in order to prepare, she is going to go straight into the planning menu options here and click on input templates. Now, within the input pen templates, she is able to see all of the existing budget and forecast forms that have been created by her and her team. And the first thing she's going to do is she wants to create a baseline budget or a what if scenario. And this is a version that she wants to store and be able to compare when the final budget has been created. So in this type of form, I have the ability as a super user to be able to choose which entity or department I want to see this P&L for. And I have all of the options here because in the administration side of things, my security allows me to see all of the entities. I then have the ability to choose the month that I want to see my actuals up until, and then I'm choosing the budget and the forecast to be able to start building that up. So in the body of the template, then I have a full P&L for my US entity over here. I can see my revenue accounts, my cost of sales, and my departmental expenses by department. Now, when in this column, I'm looking at my actuals year to date, and my actuals year to date will be based on the period that I've selected here, which is 09. And if I wanted to query where this 7.5 million has been built up, I can actually drill down into the general ledger or the general ledger detail. So the general ledger detail will essentially be all of the transactions that I'm pulling through from D365. And general ledger is usually just a summary of those transactions. So from a demo perspective, I'm just going to go straight into my general ledger summary, and I can see the summarized transactions here. I have a summary for every single month, and I can see it's up until period 9. Now, the intention of this report is, this template is to build up a budget, a what if scenario budget or a breakback. And in order to do that, I want to be able to use a driver. And my driver or my target is my desired net income. So what I have is my actual year to date. I'm then saying from September onwards or October onwards, I want to see the budget that we have created for the remaining periods. And again, you have the ability to drill down to see that budget information and the transactions that have been built up for this particular account. And then I just have a column here that is just summarizing these two, adding them up to give me a total. Now, if I scroll to the bottom, I can see that this financial year, we will be achieving a 3.2 net income. Now, I want to use this particular form and I want to target a different net income for the future budget year. And this will be the driver that will drive the prediction of the budget here. So as soon as I enter in my desired net income, which will be 3.5 million, I will hit enter. And as soon as I hit enter, an algorithm that has been placed into this template is looking at this figure here. It's then looking at the historical data, the relationship between each of these accounts, and it's creating a budget for me. Now, I could store this as my best case budget, worst case budget, my baseline budget. I can store it as a version within the Solver solution and do comparisons of every version that I create to see the impact or the performance. Now, to take this a step further, I could then, in this increase or decrease column, increase or decrease each of the rows here by adding in a percentage, whether that be 5% or 10%. So once I'm happy with this, I can just save this data. Now, this data that has been populated or predicted based on the desired net income here can be stored against this budget scenario, which is called budget. But as I mentioned in my earlier slide, Solver has the ability to store as many different scenarios or versions of the budget or forecast so that you can do a comparison. And here is an example of mine where I have a forecast version 1, forecast version 2, forecast version 3, and various different budget versions as well. Now, these versions can be locked when we are sharing out input forms via the workflow. So at this point in time, now that I've created my baseline budget, I'm just going to go straight into the workflow functionality. As highlighted, the workflow provides me as an organization with better control and visibility of the budgeting and forecasting process. So what we'll do today is we'll start up and create a new workflow. And we will give the workflow a name. So again, remember, Mandy is still the budget manager here. So she's preparing the budget. She's now preparing to send out all of the assignments to the budget contributors and budget holders via the workflow. She's going to set a time frame to this as well. So she is going to say that any assignments that will be allocated to this workflow will only be available during this time period here. So if, for example, a budget contributor goes in on the 23rd of June, 2023 to submit their budget, they will no longer be able to do so because we're locking that down by a time frame here. We then have a two-level approval process. So any submissions that are made can be reviewed, and I'm going to set myself up as a reviewer, and approved. So it has a two-step approval process. If I want Mandy, who's the reviewer, to save data in addition to what amend and adjust the data that the contributor has submitted, then I can just tick this box here. The next step, or the next couple of steps, is I need to select my templates, and I can have as many templates as I want as part of this process. But for demo purposes, I'm just going to select the two just to show you. I then have the ability to select my users. So I can say I want my user roles, and I've got my budgeting users there, which are Johnny or Lisa. I'm just going to select them. I'm then going to select which templates I need each individual to contribute to. So Johnny does not need to contribute to this one, but Lisa needs to contribute to that one and not that one. And then lastly, I have some parameters here. Now, this is where I can lock down what scenario this submission will be for. So over here, if I just leave this unticked, then every single submission will be stored against this budget scenario there. If I leave this unticked as well, it means that Johnny and Lisa will only be able to enter in the budget for this particular unit or department. So I'm going to leave this as it is, but if, for example, Johnny was a multi-department head or a multi-cost center manager, and he needs to submit a payroll budget for a number of cost centers or departments, then he can actually, or we could actually let the end user decide, and then that will allow him, based on his administration and security, to be able to chop and change and view and create a budget for the various cost centers or departments that he is responsible for. Again, that would sync in with the security that we have set within Solver. Now, as soon as Mandy saves and publishes this workflow, what will happen is the system will then send out an email notification to both Lisa and Johnny to say that a new budget assignment has been shared with them as part of the workflow webinar test. At any point in time, we can view a status of a workflow. So I've just opened up this workflow here. I can see that Mandy's in progress of these 2 templates or assignments, but she's completed this one. So you have better visibility and control over where you are in the budgeting cycle as an organization. Now, Mandy has a couple of more tasks to do before she is done. The first thing she is going to do is she sent out the workflow, and the workflow that she sent out is relevant to the payroll planning. So it's asking the budget contributors to build up the payroll for their particular department. And in order to help them build that up, as an organization, we have a list of assumptions that we want to impact the building up or the creation of that particular budget for payroll and for a particular department. So in Solver, you do have the ability to have drivers or assumptions that will impact the building up of a budget. So in my payroll example, I have some payroll related assumptions which will be applicable to all of my entities or all of my businesses or departments within my organization. So all of these rates that you can see here on the screen will actually be stored against the account that you can see here and against this budget scenario there. So the reason why I'm mentioning that is because we could go in and change these rates and store it against a different scenario and then see the impact of, let's just say, if we had 15% national insurance contribution, but we changed that to 17%, how does that compare? What's the difference on a P&L by P&L perspective for each of the departments if we had those 2 different scenarios? Now, in my organization, I'm just going to leave the NIC for 15%. But in my organization, we have some salary grading or banding. So individuals sit within a salary grade, and dependent on which salary grade they sit within, they will get a specific contribution based on pension and bonus. Now, I've received agreement from the senior executives that for anybody that sits within salary grade 5, they will receive a 20% pension contribution from the business and a 20% bonus based on their salary. Now, I'm going to save this data. And this data will now store back into the data warehouse, where any of the templates, the assignments that we have sent out to the budget contributors, if any of them look at this particular account, pension and bonus, against this scenario, then they will see this 20% for salary grade 5 and the rest of the rates here as well. Now, before we move over to showing you a end user's view, i.e. a budget contributor's view, there's one other template that I want to show. So we will go into the view as Johnny, and Johnny will be a department head who will need to enter in his budget. But before we go into Johnny's view, I just want to show you an example of an input form here. So in this input form, I have a 12-month budget that I need to input. And then over here on the right-hand side, I can see my actuals up until the period that I've selected there, which is September. And then I have the forecast for the remaining periods there. I can easily go into my period parameter there and select that I want to see my actuals up until October. Run this now to see if what the actuals look like up until October. If I scroll over to the right hand side, but also be able to start planning and budgeting for the future year. So over on the left hand side, I can see that against this particular scenario, we already have some data inputted. Now, what I want to do is I can build up the budget by easily copying and pasting. I could use Excel formula, so I can say I want to take this figure and times it by 1.1. So we are making these templates easy to use for the end user, for the budget contributor to quite easily enter in their budget. And I can see that I've entered that in there. The most important piece that I wanted to show here is that we can support line item detail. So let's just take the training line item here. Now I could go in and enter in the figure if I wish to, Or what I can do is I can click on the spreading and line item detail here, and I can actually provide a breakdown of how I'm building up my training budget. So I'm putting through Solver training, and I will be building it up with D365 training. And I will say I will need a budget of 1,000 here, maybe 2,000 there in this month. And I'm literally providing detail that goes below the GL account. And you can see that that summarized figure will go against the main account. And where we do have line item detail, it will be signified by this red arrow here, where it says this cell is locked because it contains line item details. So I'm able to see at any point in time the detail behind that main account. So that's Mandy done for now. We're going to just switch over. I'm going to change my cap, and I'm going to now go into Solver as Johnny. So Johnny is, let's just sign out. Johnny is a department manager. So he will log into Solver via a URL. And by the way, Solver is a cloud-based product which is hosted on Microsoft Azure. We can integrate with Active Directory, so AAD. We do support single sign-on, and we also support multi-factor authentication. So the login and the security around the product is advanced. Now I've logged into Johnny. He's prompted to log in because he received that email notification. If I go into the notification banner, I can see the new assignment here. So he can go in and click onto the link there, and it takes him straight into the people planning assignment. Now, at this point in time, he can see that he's pulling through his existing employees via a CSV file. So the data is actually pulling through from his payroll system via CSV into the Solver data warehouse, and it's pre-populating this form here based on the fact that these employees sit within this department. And what he's able to do then is take a look at the budget he requires for each of these employees on the right-hand side based on bonus, national insurance, pension, salary, etc. In addition to that, he can also start to plan for new hires. So he can say, I will plan to hire a new assistant. This person will start in April, their salary will go until December, and they will sit within salary grade 5. Now, if I just open this up, I'll show you that here are the rates that we are displaying that were inputted in the assumptions spreadsheet. And you can see how this is instant. There's no processing involved. If I wanted to change the salary grade for this particular assistant here, I can do so. I can then put in their annual hours and allocate a salary to them. And if I scroll over to the right-hand side, what I should be able to see is, although the annualized salary for this new hire is 50,000, because they start in April, I only actually need to build budget for 37.5 for their salary. And then I can see the rate that I need from a pension, from a national insurance contribution, bonus, etc., and all the rest of the bonuses that they may be applicable for. A couple of other columns here. I've got an increase date, so I can specify if I want to give somebody an increase, and I can put in a percentage or an increase date. I can change that from a percentage and just maybe put in a figure of how much I want their salary to be increased. We've got a very simple allocation model here, but typically most of our organisations, especially our non-for-profit organisations, will have a more advanced cost allocation model where they're building up the full payroll costs for each department and then allocating them out based on different drivers. And that driver could be percentages, it could be headcount, it could be per square footage, it could be number of users of a system, etc., etc. So this allocation is just to show you how simply it just allocated 50% of this person's salary over here. But we do have a more sophisticated allocation model that we have developed for other customers as well. Now, before I finish off as Johnny, I'm just going to save this data. That's going to store back as a submission. And before I finish off and complete my assignment as Johnny, I'm just going to ask Mandy to please check the new hire allocation and salary. And I'm just going to leave a social media type of conversation with my reviewer. Now, once I'm happy with that, all I need to do is click complete assignment, and now Johnny has completed that assignment. It's awaiting review. He can go back in and view the template, but he'll no longer be able to make any further adjustments or submissions until the reviewer has triggered an action from their end. So that's Johnny done for now. So we're just going to go back into Mandy, and this time Mandy does have a trigger as well. So she received an email notification. Here's the link to say that there's an assignment waiting her review. I'm just going to leave the page that we just saw here and go straight into that. I'll be able to see Johnny's submission, and I can see his social media type of conversation there. Now, if I want to reject his submission, I can reject, but if I mark as reviewed, it will go to the second step of the process so that we can start to finalise the budget for this particular department. Now, again, within the workflow, I have the ability to view the status of each of the workflows at any point in time by clicking the status tab there to see where everybody is in terms of the budgeting and forecasting process. So that's the workflow. As you can see, it's a controlled process that will allow you to have better visibility as an organisation and actually lock down the budget. Some of our customers, when they're ready to close off the budget, they will just cancel all of the workflows, and that way nobody can make any further submissions. So it's a great way to control that and lock down that process. Now, we've shown you some examples there, or I've shown you some examples there of some planning templates. We're just going to move over now to the reporting side of things. So I showed you some Power BI dashboards, but now I'd like to show you some reporting within the Solver solution. So first and foremost, I'd like to pull up this report here, which is a multi-tab consolidated report. So for organizations that have a group of entities and want to be able to create various different structures of their business, have the ability to do so within Solver. So in this particular report, this is a consolidated P&L. You can see the multi-tabs here at the bottom where I'm looking at a summarized or a consolidated view of a particular region and individual P&Ls for the US entity, for Canada and EMEA. Now, if I go over to the choose entity, I can see that in this particular report, I've made two of my structures available. So currently what we're viewing is the geographical structure, where at the top is our group, and then we're breaking that down by Western and Asian. Now, I've actually ran this report previously at the Western region perspective. So I have a consolidated view of the Western hemisphere and then individual entities that sit within that, which are these three here as individual P&Ls. I'm actually going to change that. I'm actually going to look at the line of business, and this time I want to see the distribution line of business. So I'm going to look at this consolidated view from a distribution perspective. And here we go. So instantly, it's now giving me a consolidated view of the distribution region and then each individual entity beneath that. Now, the idea of these reports within Solver is that you create the one report, and then this one report can be sent out to all of your report viewers. And using the Solver securities, they will only be able to see the data and the entity that is relevant to them. As an example, if I go back into Johnny is restricted to only seeing data relevant to the US entity. Now, if I pull up that same report, because it has been shared with Johnny, he will not see all of the consolidated views that I was able to see. All he can see, if I run this now, is that one entity, which is US. So again, based on the securities, these will automatically apply, and you don't need to create various different templates for all of your end users. You can create this one report that will be available and viewable to all of your report viewers. So the maintenance is that you're maintaining this one report rather than 50 different reports. Another example of a report before we go into showing you the design of how these are built. We have the variance report here, where this time we have the ability to enter in comments. So you can see that we're utilizing a lot of Excel functionality with the conditional formatting. But in this particular report, I can leave a comment on this particular row here. So row-based comments, where I can say lost a new deal, and store that back into Solver against this particular account, against this particular period. Or we can store comments against the whole report, and you can actually upload your own commentary templates. And if I just go back in, I can actually grab that number there and just leave a note here. So rather than having row-based comments, I can have comments saved against the whole report. Now, in terms of the reporting, we have a couple of more minutes before we go into Q&A. So let's show you the report designer in terms of how these reports are built. So the report designer is available. It's a license available for super users only. Your budget contributors and report viewers like Johnny will not have the ability to design new reports. They will have something called ad hoc reporting, where they can slice and dice the data and analyze the data, but they will not be able to produce reports that can then be shared out with the wider audience. So for super users or the team of finance that want to create financial statements, reports within Solver and share them out, they will have the ability to select new and create a new template. And I'm just going to give my report a name. So I'm just going to call it webinar P&L report. And as soon as I hit create, super users will need to install the Solver add-in for Excel. And once you've installed that, you will see that automatically from the cloud, it will connect to Excel. Sorry, I'm dragging this up because I have two screens. You will see it will open up Excel. So this is an Excel workbook, but with the Solver reporting ribbon, the report designer and the layout editor. So the report name is still the same. I can utilize all of my Excel functionality, but advance that truly with the flexibility and functionality that Solver adds. I like to call this Excel on steroids, but I'll let you decide whether that's correct. So what I'm going to do very quickly in the next minute or two before we wrap up is create a very quick report to show you how simple it is for your organization to build reports in Solver. So firstly, over here on the left-hand side, I have my report designer, which is essentially showing all of the financial and operational data that I have stored in Solver. I have my financial dimensions within my GL module. And if I look at the financial dimensions, I then have my attributes. So you would have seen that it's a nice and drag and drop functionality there, where I've just dragged and dropped those two fields in. I'm just going to very quickly speed this up by putting in a period and then adding in a monthly amount. Now, at this point in time, I've just dragged and dropped my account description, my account code, and my monthly amount. If I hit the Run tab, I just need to select the parameter, which has been predefined, just to see what the data looks like. I'm just validating this. So this is perfect. It's showing me all of my account codes, descriptions, and the value for each of those account codes for the month that I have selected in this parameter. I'm going to go back into design, and this time I'm just going to create a sum. So again, Excel formula, conditional formatting, charting capability, all supported within the Solver solution. I will just tidy this up and then go ahead and copy these rows a couple of times, because the next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to start utilizing the layout editor. Now, the layout editor will allow me to filter on any of the rows and columns within my report. So as an example, in row 6 and below, I want to see all of my, and I can specify accounts, but actually I'm just going to go into account category and say I want all of my revenue accounts category to be displayed here. In row 10 and below, I want all accounts that begin with, let's just say 5 over here. And then on row 14, rather than filtering on the account, I'm just going to bring the account category through again. And I'm just going to say I want all accounts that sit within expenses to be represented here. Now, what we're doing with the filtering is we are enabling this report to filter on a category, which means that if, for example, in D365 or in your ERP, you create a new account code, which is a revenue account or an expense account, that new account code will be pulled through via the integration automatically over a nightly refresh, and then it will be displayed in this report. It will be included in this report because we're filtering on the category rather than individual accounts. Now, if I take a look at this then, so if I go back into the run and just run this, I should be able to see the split over here, which is perfect. The last thing I'm going to do then is within Solver, we have some period intelligence. Now, this is not a full P&L report, but if I wanted to do a comparison or a variance, then I can utilize the period function within Solver. So this is the time period intelligence that we have, where you're selecting a period here, you can do a quick comparison by saying this period last year. Now, this will enable the report to be dynamic because individual users might be selecting different periods, and regardless of what period they select, it will always do a comparison of the same period last year. So a nice and dynamic report design interface that is easy to use and keeps you in a familiar environment. If I'm happy with this report, all I need to do is click save. It saves it as a draft in the portal. And from within the portal, it is clicked here. There we go, webinar P&L report. I can open it up and just show you that it actually mirrors what you see in Excel. And from there, I can publish this report, and then I can share it by individually sharing it to user roles or groups, or what we suggest, which is best practice, is to allocate the report to a category. Sorry, I've just lost the report there. There we go. Allocate the report to a category and then share those categories with individual user roles or user groups. So all you're essentially doing is creating a new report and adding it to the category there. Now, that's all I wanted to show from a demonstration today. I'm just going to go back into my slides to wrap up. But before I do, there's a couple of links that I want to share with you. So for Business Central Cloud customers only, we can deploy Solver Quick Start, which we can get you up and running with just GL data in a day. And in addition to that, I mentioned you would get 100 plus ready to use reports. The link to see the reports is here. This is the template marketplace where you can see all of the ready to use out of the box reports that are available to you after we've deployed Quick Start. There's some analysis reports, there's some standard reports like the the P&L, the balance sheet, the cash flow statement, etc., as well as the dashboards. If you want to interact with the 50 plus Quick Start dashboards, then you can log into this link here and try the Quick Start dashboards there as well and view the 50 plus dashboards. So these two links will show you what's available out of the box with Solver Quick Start. So in terms of wrapping up, I wanted to share a customer success story. So Solver and Enhance have a mutual customer who is the Royal Automobile Club. They're a hospitality client. They are a private members club with 2 clubhouses, one in Surrey, Woodcote, and one in Pall Mall near Buckingham Palace. They reviewed various different solutions and selected Solver as their preferred solution. They're currently on GP and were looking to replace Management Reporter and Forecaster, and utilised Solver in order to provide the capabilities that those solution tools did, but also enhance those. So here is a statement from Simon, who's been a key stakeholder in the selection of Solver, but also in the implementation and ongoing support of Solver. They've been a client of ours for 3 years now, but this is just a customer success story where we're connecting to Dynamics GP. So Simon says, you know, they were looking for a single solution that they could use for all of their budgeting and reporting requirements. Solver was the best product that they came across. It allowed them as a business to utilize robust templates with clear visibility and logical workflow routines, which I've shown you today, with a seamless budget creation. They quite liked the ability to plan different scenarios using the driver-based scenario planning that I showed you with the payroll and the payroll assumptions. And of course, managers like Johnny that I showed were able to see their standard P&L reports. So that was just a customer success story of a mutual client between Solver and Enhance, and a great reference point for us. So thank you, Simon, for providing us with this statement so that we could share this today. So we're going to wrap up now, but before we do, here's a quick slide on why Solver. I think the key points really here is that we are a single enterprise-wide reporting and planning and dashboarding solution. There's no different applications, it's all one application. We have that familiar Excel-based report designer. What you've seen today in terms of the report designer is there or thereabouts. You literally would need 1 or 2 days worth of training to be able to design your own reports going forward. And for Business Central Cloud customers, we have Solver Quick Start, which will provide you with instant value with ready-to-use reports and templates. So that will not only provide you with instant value, but reduce costs in terms of implementation times and services. If you'd like to know more, you can go on to our solverglobal.com website to take a look at some of the examples that I showed here today, and of course to take a look at the links around the Solver Quick Start product. Thank you all so much, and over to you, Matt.
Excellent, Mandy. Thank you very, very much for that. That was a fantastic session. Got into some real detail there in terms of coverage, and yeah, just want to say thanks for doing this today for us. There was actually a couple of questions. I'll quickly fire them across at you. I think they'd be fairly simple ones. I think one you probably did cover, which I think is a yes. One is just can Solver connect to other data sources?
Yes, so we have a number of pre-built integrations to various different systems. Of course, we have an out-of-the-box integration to Business Central, pre-built integration to GP, but we do have the ability to connect to like CRM systems, other ERPs, as well as the ability to bring in data via CSV or even SQL as well. So we have a data warehousing capability which enables us to support that.
Excellent. And the final question was, and this is a good one actually, can Solver support multiple reporting hierarchies?
Yes, so in the example that I showed today, outside of your ERP, you can create hierarchies within the Solver solution. So for example, if you are looking to potentially change the structure of your business next year and you want to budget and plan on that, you are able to create that hierarchy within the Solver solution and then summarize today's actuals based on a potential future hierarchy of your business. And you can create as many different reporting structures and hierarchies within the Solver solution to support all of your reporting and also planning needs.
Excellent. That sounds really powerful. Thanks, Mandy. So that's the 2 questions that we've had through. Thank you to those that submitted those questions. Just want to say again, thanks, Mandy, for the presentation this morning. That was fantastic. And if anybody does have any questions that they want to take up with us directly, please feel free to contact your mHance account manager, or you can drop us a line at sayhello@m-hance.com. Mandy and the team and the team here at mHance would be happy to do some sort of specific sessions with anybody that wants to talk a bit further about Solver and its capabilities. So thanks everybody for attending. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we hope to speak to you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.